Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dima Down. My friends call me Dima. Today I want to go a little off the music, giving you good vibes and speak a little bit on some money, money in a specific context of cryptocurrencies. Because I believe we are getting to the point where we can't ignore these anymore. It's becoming mainstream now. Becoming so mainstream that legislation is being written right this second as I'm speaking to you. But not a lot of people know about that. And so we don't pay attention to what actually matters, the wealth, the wealth transfer that's currently going on. So on this day, I just want to speak a little bit more about where I think things are headed and what I think some things that you might want to pay attention to. I came across an article, not an article, but a piece of content from Mr. Reggie Middleton. I'll leave his details down here, information, you can check him out. And he had some interesting viewpoints that resonated with me a lot, because looking at it, it was questions I've never thought to ask. And I've been in crypto dabbling here and there for some time now. Haven't been very serious, but I am serious now, I'll tell you that, because if you see, as I'm going to show you in some of these videos coming, if you see the amount of regulations that these people are making, the banks are coming into this, it's becoming a non-excusable topic at this point. So I'll push that information into Grok 3 and just to do some basic analysis, and I'll read a little bit about some of the things. So just to give a brief thesis. The thesis for this piece is that cryptocurrencies are software-dependent units of account, rather than self-standing financial assets, making their market very highly susceptible to technology-specific risks. What this briefly means is that because cryptocurrencies are software first, it means that they are prone to all the risks that softwares or these kinds of technologies are prone to. It means that if there are any vulnerabilities in these codes or in these devices technology, cryptocurrencies, these assets are also prone to those type of risks as well. Now, the brief highlights a significant concern. The custody infrastructure for the $60 billion US spot ETF assets is increasingly targeted by what it calls foreseeable intellectual property claims. That's big. That suggests a potential legal and operational risk that could disrupt the ecosystem. So I'm going to go over the key points that he laid out in this piece of content he put out there. The first one is the high dependence on technology custodians. The evidence for this, he says, Coinbase, a major custodian, holds 8 of 11 US spot ETFs, controlling 70% of institutional cold storage. The consequence for this, he says, a single injunction or expensive license could immediately impact ETF advisors, broker-dealers, investors downstream. This concentration of custody creates a systemic risk, where a legal or technical failure at Coinbase could cascade through the market. The second point he made, which would shed a little bit more light on the first point he made, is that the patented core custody workflow. Now, evidence for this, he says, independent legal analysis indicates that custody workflows like private key storage, request review, signature, broadcast, just to list a few, are covered by existing US patents. Those products have already been patented. That's a serious issue if you've already built on top, if you've gone ahead to build on top of this. Now, the consequences, he says, is that major custodians like Coinbase, one of the largest crypto platforms or exchange in the world, Fidelity, Digital Assets, BitGo, and Anchorage, face potential willful infringement exposure. Meaning you knew it. If you invested all this money in it, I'm sure you did your research, and so if you went ahead to still invest in this, you willfully exposed yourself. Now, the question is, why would they willfully expose themselves? These are supposed to be the smartest people in the world, isn't it? Or maybe there's a different play here that we are not seeing. Anyway, the third point he makes is the lack of disclosure by ETF sponsors. Evidence, he says, the BlackRock IBIT S1 names Coinbase as the custodian but omits infringement carve-outs. They didn't put that in there. The consequences of this are this undisclosed technology risk could lead to a potential regulation FD/10-B-5 liability, exposing sponsors to regulatory and legal challenges. This is a big lawsuit waiting to happen. If these technologies have already been patented and they went ahead to still invest in them, someone's coming back for their money. So now, in a hypothetical litigation, he references if, say, they were to bring a lawsuit onto these platforms in 2025, it says the first thing they'll do is a complaint will be filed, a lawsuit against Coinbase or BitGo, claiming willful infringement, noticing dates 2022 to 2024. Second thing they'll do is a pre-trial TRO or PI, a temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction threatens signature operations, prompting ETF sponsors to seek emergency 19B-4 relief. SEC pressures for settlement. It's gonna be a long day. That's going to affect someone's pockets. Whose pocket is that going to be? If your assets are tied in there, potentially you're at risk. Now, the third thing that is going to happen is negotiations. Coinbase and ETF sponsors negotiate a portfolio-wide license, a 1-to-1 to 2 BP AUM fee, or a retroactive, meaning it goes all the way back to when they started using that particular piece of technology, increasing the cost. Now, the fourth thing that would happen is an expense ratio and NAV impact. ETF expenses ratio jumped by 2 to 26 base points, triggering a suitability lawsuit and diluting net asset value, ultimately burdening investors. Now, analysis. The risk concentration. The reliance on a few custodians, particularly Coinbase, creates a single point of failure. If IP claims are upheld, the financial operations impact could leave severe, affecting not just the custodians but the entire ETF ecosystem. It's going to go down. How many people invest in? These ETFs are already popular. The ones that are including crypto in their ETFs are fairly new, so I'm not sure how many people have invested there already, but it's still a significant risk. Now, the legal exposure. The patenting of core custody workflow suggests that the industry may have overlooked critical IP considerations, intellectual property considerations. Willful infringement claims could lead to significant penalties or forced settlements as outlined in the hypothetical scenario. They're going to sue. They are going to sue, especially if there's money involved. You can count on that. Investor impact. The potential increase in expense ratio and NAV dilution highlights a broader risk to investors who may face higher costs and reduced returns due to legal battle or licensing fee. So if they put licensing fees on all these ETFs, it means that your expected return is going to get affected. It means you don't get as much as you think you was going to get, and that may be devastating to you depending on your situation. Now, what Croc suggests the decision makers should do is, what Mr. Reggie Middleton suggests decision makers do is, the brief implies that decision makers, likely the board level leaders or executives, should act promptly to assess them and mitigate these risks. This could involve conducting internal IP audits to identify potential infringement risks. Yep, you'd want to know where you're exposed and try and see how to work towards that. Diversifying custody providers to reduce concentration risk. Like they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify. These are the people that you're supposed to know these things to be at the top, isn't it? Anyway, engaging legal counsel to negotiate preemptive license or challenge patent validity. That's a good one. Enhancing disclosure practices to comply with regulatory standards. I mean, if you don't pay your tax, the way the government comes after you, they don't go after these people, these big banks and big corporations the same way. I don't know why. That's all I wanted to discuss today. After I saw that particular piece of information from Reggie Middleton, I was really bothered by this because I invest in the crypto market as well. I'm not a huge investor, but I have some investments in there, and I would want to know that my investments are secure. That's why I always encourage my friends to get cold storage, cold wallets. That way, if anything happens to them, their cryptos are not on the platforms, because if your crypto is on these platforms before anything happens to them, your assets are going to get touched. You're at risk of losing your assets. So I always tell my friends to get cold storage wallets. I personally use Ledger. They don't sponsor me or anything. It's just what I personally use. There's others that I find interesting as well, like the Tangem, like the Trezor. Is it Trezor? One of them, Trezor. And there's quite a number of them on the market. You can look into it and then get you a suitable one. But be your own bank in 2025. In the future, you have to be more responsible for your finances, it looks like. Banks are dying. The traditional banks as we know them are dying. They are all moving onto the blockchain. And this is the first time in history where retail investors like you and I, the ordinary people, can invest or have the opportunity to invest in this market before the institutions come in, which is a big deal. This almost never happens in history. So we are in a unique point in time in history to take advantage of these things. And this is the reason why I want to share this with everyone. People who might not know, maybe I might have just brought this to someone's attention, because if we can see how society, or they are actively breaking down the middle class, and that disparity of wealth, the wealth transfer, is actually going on now. We can't see it because we've been distracted in the news with all the stuff that they put out there and in the entertainment and all that. But beneath all that is all these railroads that are being built by our financial institutions onto the blockchain, because the current model we are using right now is collapsing. So I just thought I'd bring that information to someone. Hopefully you find it useful. If you did, you can give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I'll do sure to produce a lot more of some of these types of topics, and also bring you great music too. It's your boy Dima. Catch you on the next one. Peace.